Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On this Monday, welcome to Ask the Theologian. Glad you're here. Got a full week of programming here for you, and glad to be here for your biblical, theological, and worldview questions. We'll have a good time today, seeing what's on your mind. If you have a question you'd like to ask live, you can put the word question in it, any of our chat box, or 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're not watching live or you just like to go there, make things easy on us, you can go to askthetheologian.com. By the way, if you go to askthetheologian.com, we also try to, unless I just know you're on, then we try to send you an email alert saying, hey, we got to your question, and that way, you know, just in case you happen to have missed a program, we will be there. So, yeah, this Wednesday, we got Faithful Footnotes. We're going to be studying the life of John Mark in the New Testament. Thursday, I was off last Thursday, out of town. Thursday, we'll be back to the book of Proverbs, and Monday through Friday for Ask the Theologian here this week. So, looking forward to that. Let's jump over to begin here to Jay in Tennessee, who has a follow-up question on May 1st, to a question on May 1st related to Noah and the flood. If I heard correctly, that phrase always makes me worry. If I heard correctly, it was mentioned that only Noah's family would have been allowed on the ark since the rest of the world's DNA had been corrupted. Okay, that is what I said. We'll question the assumptions because that's what we do here. But Noah was faithful in his generations. What's the wording there in Genesis chapter 6? I don't know, about verse 5. No, down a little further from that, verse 9. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man, and it's this key phrase right here, perfect in his generations. That's where I was going, that only Noah and his family had this clean DNA, thus the rest were eradicated. Okay, now, so it was mentioned, Jay says, only Noah and his family would have been allowed on the ark since the rest of the world's DNA had been corrupted. 2 Peter 2:5 says Noah was a preacher of righteousness. Let's go to 2 Peter. You're absolutely right, but let's go ahead and get it on the screen here if I can get it on here. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 5. So we've got this Noah perfect, and New Testament spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly. Okay, saved this preacher of righteousness. Now, the question, if no one but Noah's family would have been allowed on the ark due to impure genes, then what message was Noah preaching? In what way was he considered a preacher? It doesn't seem that Noah would be proclaiming a message to others if they would not have been able to enter the ark. Okay, clearly you are not a Calvinist, Jay, because a Calvinist would have no problem with proclaiming a good news message to people who can't accept it because they're predestined by God to his glory to be damned in hell forever. So that's Calvinism. But this is not a Calvinist question. It's just that we make every question a Calvinist question. Okay. Preacher of righteousness. Let's do a couple of things here. Let's see if we can pull up and get this particular Greek word here for 2 Peter 2:5. That does not appear to be 2 Peter 2:5 because that's not in Hebrew. Okay, I'm gonna turn that off. And Luca, just do me a favor. Make sure that the word preacher in 2 Peter 2:5 is the Greek word related to charigma. Tell me what the word is once you find that, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm giving the correct information. There's a couple of words. I assume this is probably the typical word for preaching, which is a proclaimer or a herald, one who is shouting out. Now, maybe, Jay, you've got some evangelical concepts that we need to rid you of on this Monday morning. Because maybe you're thinking, well, if you are a proclaimer, you are inviting, and now with every head bowed and every eye closed as the instruments begin to play, God is dealing with some here. As I have preached about righteousness today, the Holy Spirit has laid upon your heart that you have not always been righteous before God. I want in the quietness of this room, every person who feels the pressing of the Holy Spirit upon you to now just lift your hand just for a moment and say, yes, preacher, that's me. I am not the preacher of righteousness that I should be, the creature of righteousness that I should be. Now, I don't think we have to put the invitation on there. I think that we can take this and say, he's telling what God is about to do. And he's telling those who have, I don't know, shall we call it, this is perhaps stretching it a little too far, but they have satanic DNA. So remember, is it in that same passage of Scripture in which we have the Lord going, it's Peter, but I think I've got the wrong passage there. The Lord going and proclaiming to spirits in prison. So could it be that as the Lord goes to those particular spirits in prison and proclaims, this is at the death of Jesus Christ, proclaims his victory, that Noah was doing the same thing to those who were alive, and that then you've got something like the Lord, when he goes there, saying, you guys heard Noah, didn't you? He was exactly right. Here I am to show you. So a proclaimer of righteousness. There, again, in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 5, a preacher of righteousness. What's the Greek word there? Good. Yeah, okay. It comes from kerugma. It is this proclamation kind of word. It really is a very standard word. Let's even say a non-religious word. You put the newsy out there, extra, read all about it. That person is preaching. So the word has to do mostly with an announcement. He is giving an announcement of righteousness. Even to a little degree, as we've been studying Ecclesiastes on Sunday mornings, the preacher, the koheleth, the assembler just there to proclaim some things, to say some things, to talk about some things, to let the information out. So don't read preacher of righteousness here in the way that we would take it in the modern evangelical sense of I'm going to proclaim righteousness followed by an invitation to rid yourself, leave your seat and leave your sin and come today. So appreciate that. I hope that is helpful to you. Missed J in Tennessee. Hope you're having a fine Monday morning. Appreciate that. Let's go to one that next question of the day comes in from Bertie. Good to see you. And this came in yesterday. Looks like on Ask the Theologian. It's a why question. Why? You know why questions are the hardest ones to answer. Why do you not? Oh, it's a why question about me, which makes it easier to answer. Why do you not talk about events of today, the things happening all around, Just a quick update to your audience on where we're at in biblical times, all the things happening, going on in our world. You give no updates or even mention why. Excellent question. So let's see. I think, first of all, this is an audience-driven program. So I ask about what the audience wants me to talk about. Now, granted, I chase a rabbit every now and then. It's been a long time. I used to kind of put in things that I just wanted to talk about. But now, typically, I've got enough questions that it's just, if I'm ever going to get to these questions, it's one after another. So I would say I am happy to talk about current events, even as they may or may not relate to the Scripture. More often, I think they don't, but as they may or may not relate to the Scripture. But it is so audience-driven that only if you, the people, ask me a question about current events, am I going to answer a question about current events? So I don't come in the morning with an agenda to say, okay, here's what I'm going to talk about today. Over the weekend, such and such happened, so and so said, and this, that, and the other took place. So I think that's the main reason. I'm not really opposed to talking about current events, even current events as they relate to a biblical worldview, for example. But I would also say that, one, that's not really my area of expertise. Though I would say I stay up with the world. I kind of, decently at least know what's going on. I rarely watch news. I'll watch some headlines every now and then, but I almost never turn on, in fact, let's just say I never go. Maybe on election night, I'll go sit and watch the television. But outside of that, I probably haven't watched 15 minutes of a news program in, I don't know how long, several years at least. Sometimes when I'm in the car, I'll listen to, a Fox News simulcast or something like that. And I honestly get bored of doing it because what I found, and let me, how shall I say this, chastise a little bit those of you who spend your day watching Fox News or Newsmax or whatever. First of all, it's an advertisement every 6 minutes. I can't take all those advertisements. I'm not interested in that. And 90% of them are fake medical, pharmaceutical kind of junk. And then after you've listened to Fox News, I have, what is it, Sirius Radio, XM, whatever, where it simulcasts, and sometimes in the car I'll listen to it. You listen to it about 30 minutes, and it starts repeating. They have 30 minutes worth of news, just like back in the 70s. There's 30 minutes worth of news, and they repeat it. And then they have somebody else come and talk about it, and 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 somebody else talk about it. I'm like, I heard about it already. So it's not really all that much of my expertise, I guess we should say. So I guess that's why. I also, holding to a view, and I'm rare in this view, but holding to a view that God is not actively orchestrating events today. He is not fulfilling prophecy today. Then if you ask me, for example, I did see the headline that a rocket came from the Houthis in Yemen and hit close to the Ben Gurion airport in Tel Aviv, and caused a little skirmish. I don't think anyone was hurt or anything. It hit in a field. So, if you ask, what did you think about the Houthis sending rockets? I was like, well, the big story is that the defense system missed it. That's the big story. Was that a judgment of God? No, it wasn't a judgment of God. It was bad technology or bad operation there. They need to up their game. Somebody found a weakness somehow. There's a little window in which that missile got in. Fortunately, it didn't hurt anyone. Now it's time to up their game on that, and clear that out. And it's time for President Trump to be very strong about it. You say, well, that's just Yemen and Tel Aviv. Yeah, but like it or not, we've got to have strong leadership from Washington, because strong leadership from Washington will I'll use a school teacher illustration. Will tell those kids, we don't do that in this classroom. Sorry about that. We're done. Mr. Biden, we're not the teacher here anymore. We got a new kid in town. Boom. There we go. So I take a completely political current events view, which is the same as you get in 24 minutes on Fox News. But I'm happy to take any questions about a current event that anyone would have. Let's go to Cash. Comes in this morning. I see you online there, Cash. Good to see you. I said, this maybe has the answer to my previous question about the purpose of the lake of fire. I believe we talked about that last week. It appears to be, it appears it is to be for a reminder to all flesh that come to worship the Lord. Let's pull this together and check on a passage that Cash gives us. Isaiah 66:23. It shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me. Okay. Let me highlight this and say, okay, what is the purpose of the lake of fire? Could it be, as Isaiah 66:23 says, and I would say Isaiah 66:23 gives it in a bit different context. It's not exactly talking about the lake of fire, but all flesh shall come to worship before me. Or to put that in the New Testament terminology, every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of the Father. Now, Isaiah 66:24, let's go on. So shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. Let me back up before I go to verse 24. I think I'm jumping in a little bit. One new moon to another, one Sabbath to another. This is talking about in the millennial day, during the time of the coming kingdom. From one new moon to one Sabbath, these are opportunities for all flesh to come worship before me. And I'm providing these observances, these trigger points, so that all flesh would come before me. I think that's the context there. Let me put it this way. Even in the millennium, you're busy. Crops are coming in like never before. You get busy. So time comes between, this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I just got busy. All week long I have not worshiped the Lord. And so he says, one Sabbath to another. It's this opportunity to come and say, hey, everybody kind of stops on this day and they go and do this thing, this other thing. One new moon to another. There's a sacrifice given at a new moon under the law. So, hey, wow, I even missed last Sabbath. I got so busy I missed last Sabbath, but here's the new moon. I can't keep the. So these trigger points, trigger, in the millennium, I think is what this verse is talking about, rather than the lake of fire. But I think you might be able to make a connection here. We'll go ahead and see with it. So here in 23, I got a trigger point, I got another trigger point, just so that all flesh will come and worship before me in the millennium, saith the Lord. And they shall go forth, verse 24, and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed before me, for their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. Okay, very, very interesting connection, and that's where it does come into not only this millennial, but this judgment kind of issue that comes. This one appears to be prior to the Great White Throne Judgment, let's say during the millennium. And the reason I say that is because the Old Testament virtually doesn't go any farther than into the millennial reign. It doesn't go into the eternal age that we have in the book of Revelation. But nonetheless, you do have at the beginning this great destruction of people that takes place when the Lord returns and begins his kingdom. And so you've got these individuals here, and the living ones go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me. Now, I think that we would build the case, if we were really digging into this, we would build the case that these men that have transgressed against me were killed at the beginning of the kingdom. They did not go into the millennium. And their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched. Now that, of course, was quoted by Jesus in the New Testament, speaking of eternal damnation. And they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. Now, could you build that into a theology of the purpose of the lake of fire? Again, the timing is not perfect, but the logic is pretty good. I say the timing is not perfect because I think verses 23 and 24 are before the lake of fire and the great white throne judgment. But if you're trying to ask why questions, which are the hardest ones to answer, then you can begin to say, hey, you know what? I think very well could be that this is a current, forever reminder, even into the eternal age in which we are very, I'm saying this in a negative way and I don't mean to, but we're very deficient today on information about the eternal age. We know very little. We know far more about the kingdom age than the eternal age. But is that lake of fire always there to say we were supposed to come and worship before the Lord? All flesh was to come worship before the Lord, and they didn't. And it stands as an eternal reminder. I mean, they go on for eternity. So, Cash, you might very well be on to something. I'll ring your bell here. They shall go forth. So the question here, Isaiah 66:22. We started in verse 23. Isaiah 66:22 is talking about the new heavens and the new earth. Maybe I should have read the end of the question first. Is the time frame in verse 23 linked to verse 22, or could verse 23 only been in the millennium? We must think alike, Cash. In other words, do you think the lake of fire will be burned up along with the heavens and the earth after the millennium? Okay, verse 22, let's back up. As the new heavens and new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain, and it shall come to pass. Okay, there's a couple of things we can do with this. One, let's go pretty traditional and put the new heavens and the new earth at the end of the millennium. Therefore, verse 22, is speaking about the end of the millennium. And these things are then going to remain forever before me, and your seed shall remain. And then with that timing, put verse 23 after that. And after that, it shall come to pass. But I'm not sure you have to do that. I think we could build enough case using examples from Isaiah even to say he talked about something farther out there, and then he backed up and said, oh, also I should let you know, it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and that he backs up before. Now, not a strong case, but a plausible case. The reason I say it's not strong is it's not the natural reading. The natural reading of, and it came to pass is consecutive. Now, there is such a thing called, and I'm not sure, I don't have the resource, I don't think. Let me see if I've got, maybe so. Excuse me just a moment while I pull up Isaiah 66:23 in the Hebrew. What I am curious about, I'm gonna give Luca a Hebrew lesson here, and he's gonna look something up for me. Luca, there's something called the waw, W-A-W in Hebrew. It basically is this word and right here. W is how it's pronounced. It's one single letter, but it's called the waw, the vav, W-A-W. Now, there is a waw consecutive, I believe is what it's called. I think there's a waw conjunction and a waw consecutive. I want to know Isaiah 66:23, and it will come to pass, it shall come to pass. Is that a waw consecutive? Is what we want to look up. Now, it has to do with some things. I only know enough to look it up. I don't know enough to look at it and immediately know. So we're going to look it up here, if that's a waw consecutive. If so, then it does tell us that verse 23 happens after verse 24. I think the other one's called a waw conjunction, and that just means, hey, I'm talking about the same things, but it's not necessarily a consecutive that is given there. So, okay. According to our quick research, it's the conjunctive, not the consecutive. Now, here's the challenge here. If I wanted to argue that verse 23 backs up, it just so happens that now I want to talk, and furthermore, in a different matter, it shall come to pass, I can use the conjunctive to verify my case. It is helpful. But the conjunctive doesn't narrow it down. If it's a consecutive, you have to take it consecutive. If it's a conjunctive, it might be conjunctive, it might be consecutive, it might not be consecutive. So the point is, this could go either way. On the very good question, is the time frame of verse 23 linked to verse 22, or could 23 only be in the millennium? The answer is, yeah, we could go either way on it. But let me say one other thing here. Let me shift gears just a little bit here. Again, what we're trying to figure out is this coming to pass right here. Is that after the new heavens and the new earth? And therefore, verse 23 and verse 24 speaks about the eternal age, which is the millennium. Which is after the millennium. Now, here's the other issue that we should figure out. The new heavens and the new earth, which I will make. Find the passage in Peter's epistles on the elements will burn with fire. Maybe, and one of these days I'm going to put this together, Cash. I'm going to have to leave it hanging a little bit. Maybe we put the creation of the new heavens and the new earth at the wrong time. Millennium, then new heavens and new earth. That's the way it reads in Revelation, and it's pretty clear there, which is why I think we put them. But let's go ahead and put up, what do we have in Peter, first or second? 2 Peter 3:10. The day of the Lord. Now, this typically is either the Lord's return or really the judgment leading up to the Lord's return. The day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which, this is where it's very clear right here, in the day of the Lord, the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, the elements shall melt with fervent heat, the earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. So do we really need this new heaven and new earth to be the conclusion of the tribulation? And that we've got some timing wrong there. There is not an easy solution to this. You look at one and say, oh, yeah. I mean, that's clear. That's where it is. In fact, I think you could take Isaiah 26:22, put it with 2 Peter 3:10, put it at the beginning of the millennium. But then when you get into Revelation 21 and 22, 20 and 21, excuse me, you say, oh, wait, it goes over here. So go here, go there. You know, are there two different events that are being talked about? Peter, you know, when he talks about the elements melting with fervent heat, the earth also and the works therein being burned up, that's not the destruction of the old heaven and the old earth and then the creation of the new heaven. Several things to put there. So let me just say that I think you can argue this two ways. One, the grammatical way to try to figure out what order it's in which case we don't fully have an answer, but I don't think I would go strongly that verse 23 absolutely comes after verse 22, because there is a clear way to say that, and Hebrew didn't say that. But the other is to say, hey, do we have this whole thing messed up from the beginning? And that's why we're not quite getting that in correctly. How's that? Hope that's of some value to you. Cash, thanks for sending that in on Ask the Theologian. And since I see you're online here with us today, I won't send you an email saying we got it, but there it is. And appreciate it. We have a compliment on the suit, ladies and gentlemen. Although she just said suit, she didn't say pink shirt. It's Mother's Day week, you know, seemed like we should be pinkish. Yeah. You know, just checking out some of the comments, Chuck says, I do the same thing. He says, I look at X at 5 a.m., 5 to 5:30. So I pretty much know what there is to know. You know, X really is a great news source because you can get the summaries. It's kind of a summary of what everyone is saying. So, you know, it says some people think this and some people think that. And then you can, you know, the things you want to pursue further. So, okay, I'd like to know a little bit more about that. Or I want to know why someone said it's pretty balanced. I kind of like it, and you can spend a little bit of time there. Once you know, X takes a little bit of I don't know, maneuver and figure out exactly where and how, but works well, and carries that out. Um, Larry, I'm going to get to your question here. Before the day is out, stay tuned. But I've got a few others that came in first. Let me jump in on those. Question, to a Jehovah's Witness, they stick to the name of Jehovah alone, probably due to this verse, and this is presented as a form of a question, probably due to this verse, Psalm 83:18, which says, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Jehovah, art the most high over all the earth. If I was going to be a Jehovah's Witness, indeed, I would go there. Psalm 83:18, excuse me. Now, what's interesting here, you notice that the word Jehovah right there is all caps. Many of the Bible versions, certainly the King James, uses whatever word they translate, uses for the tetragrammaton, that is the four-letter unsayable name of God, covenant name of God. They will put that in all caps because there's a number of different ways it's translated. If you were to search that particular Hebrew word, you would find that sometimes it is Lord, all caps. Sometimes it is God, all caps. This one time, I don't know if there are any others, but this one time, this is probably the only one, is Jehovah, all caps. But there's a number of different ways. It's the same word. If you were reading in Hebrew, you wouldn't say, oh, here he's called Lord, here he's called God, here he's called Jehovah. It would all be this one. And by the way, a modern Hebrew speaker would probably pronounce it more Yahweh than Jehovah. It's the same words. And if you're looking at the screen here, JHVH. Remember that Hebrew does not have vowels. So the E, O, A are substituted best we can think. What can we do with it? So, honestly, it could be Jehovah. It could be Jehovah. It could be Jehovah. We don't really know. But then, let me add to that. Let's go to the continents on it. See the JHVH? That's the four letters that make up that tetragrammaton. And sometimes you see it YHWH. Yahweh. Absolutely the same. Who's right? Maybe neither. Maybe neither are right. See, any English speaker knows, if you dealt with any other foreign languages, that J, H, and V, that's the three letters here. J, H, V. And then there's a repeat of the H. Those are very slippery letters. Those are greased pigs right there. What do you do with it? Sometimes J is taken as a W. Sometimes J is taken as an H. Sometimes H is taken as an I. So, there's all this. Sometimes V is taken as a W. I don't know. What's the Volkswagen? There's the va and the va. You know, va and lava. These are so interchangeable that we don't know. Now, you know, we could get some Hebrew experts on it, and they could give a good argument for either way. But the truth is, this is in modern Hebrew. Modern Hebrew doesn't really go with the JHV. It would be much more Yahweh. And yeah, V is an F in German. Okay, these that sound and the you get those sounds. Whoa, you want this letter to do that or that letter to do that? So I really don't think that I would insist you have to pronounce it this way. Why? Because that's the way some modern rabbis pronounce it, and they say you ought to pronounce it that way because that's the way they grew up pronouncing it. That's the way, you know, they don't do the J, they always do the Y. We made it all up. We don't know. Nobody knows how to pronounce this. Again, you can take this, substitute the J, H, and V for Y's, H's, and W. And you can substitute the various vowel sounds in it, the E, O, A, you know. So again, you know, J, but some people have a Ya. Yahweh. Instead of they have a E. I don't think God's so small that he's going to say, no, out of here. So anybody who does this, and by the way, let's put it to the Jehovah's Witness, who probably took it from the King James. Or let's take the modern Hebrew roots movement, who insists it's got to be Yahweh. Don't you say Jesus. Nobody ever called him Jesus. They called him Yahweh. Both of them are legalists. And I'm not a legalist. I think we live in the age of grace and the dispensation of the grace of God. So, you know, I tell you what, we don't have a Chick-fil-A where we live, but every now and then I get, you know, to a city and they got a Chick-fil-A. I don't know what it is about this, but Chick-fil-A does not like the name Randy. You know, at Chick-fil-A, they always ask your name. And I say, Randy. And then, a few minutes later, Brandy, your order's ready. I know I have a pink shirt on, but my name is not Brandy. What's up with this? Okay, I don't get too offended. I just take my meal. I was there just the other day. You know, I was in Albuquerque last week, and so I decided I'd go through the drive-thru, get me some, you know, a chicken biscuit for breakfast. And so I said, I know at Chick-fil-A, pronounce it slow and clear. Randy. I get up to the window, and he says, here's your order, Brandon. I took it, and I ate it. Doesn't matter. Call me whatever you want, just call me for dinner, right? So this probably is where they go from, you know, whose name alone is, but you could put whose name alone is Lord, whose name alone is God, whose name alone is Yahweh, whose name alone is Jehovah, art most high over the earth. I just think we're building a house of cards when we build this. You've got to have every sound wave has to be exactly right because God is going to judge you based upon the sound waves that came out of your mouth. The problem with Jehovah's Witnesses is they really are Old Testament believers. They have rejected the New Testament. And they they then pick and choose what they want from the Old Testament. It's my analysis. Thank you. There for that question. Another one comes in this morning. Will you explain free will versus predestination? Free will versus predestination. Let's see. Free will, you get to have free will. Predestination, you are predestined. Next question. How's that? Predestination. First of all, we would want to say, are we talking just in the realm of salvation? Which I think would be crazy just to narrow it that way. And most Calvinists will not. I am not a Calvinist. But most Calvinists will take predestination to everything. Everything is preordained. This is why it's really a Calvinist statement that says, I don't believe in luck. No, I don't. Well, good luck to you. I don't believe in luck. Okay, why don't they believe in luck? Because what they're saying is God has predestined the way this is going to be. Got to go downtown. Well, good luck finding a parking lot. I don't believe in luck. God's either appointed a parking space before me from before the foundation of the world, or he's not. They're lovely people. So predestination is that everything has been determined. Now, sometimes those who believe in predestination, because they inherently know that there's a problem with this, an unbiblical problem with it. They inherently know, so they say, oh, well, actually you have free will. God just knew in advance what you were going to decide. And therefore it's predestined. That's a dog chasing his tail on that one. If God knew I was going to wear a pink shirt today, and therefore he predestined that I was going to wear a pink shirt today, and this all happened before the world was even created, then God created me to wear a pink shirt today. It's predestination. It is God micromanaging everything about the creation, which makes God a liar. Because God says, I'm giving you dominion. I'm giving you dominion. Now, the Calvinists and those who believe in predestination want to say, oh, his mouth's moving, but that's not what he said. Now, they will never put it that way, but that's exactly what it means. I give you dominion. You can go out, and this is yours to do every little thing down to the jot and tittle exactly like I have said. There is no choice for you to do anything else. You don't have dominion. You're a robot. You're pre-programmed. That's predestination. I believe in free will. God says, I'm giving you dominion. Guess what you can do with dominion? You can make something great out of it, or you can flub it up big time. And God lets us do that because he's not so concerned that he can't handle it on the back end. God knows he can handle it on the back end. All the possibilities of the things that we can do is like, I can handle it. There's a way to fix this. There's a way to deal with this. There's a way to punish this. There's a way to bless this. Whatever it is, he can handle it. So free will and predestination, I think that logically you have to take it wholly and completely on either side. There is free will or there is predestination, and it goes to absolutely everything. And I think those who claim to believe in free will, one of the ways we can help them really is to press that point and say, okay, so you believed that I was going to wear pink today, that was predestined from the foundation? No. God lets you decide that. Well, why would he let me decide what I can wear, but he won't let me decide what my eternity is? And if he is sovereign over all things, isn't he sovereign over the color of my shirt? Well, yes, he's absolutely sovereign. But do you think it was just luck that I just reached in a dark closet and pulled it out and says, oh, there it is, I'm wearing that today? No, I don't believe in luck. Push him on it, because predestination absolutely has to go to that to that nth degree. Now, a well-studied Calvinist will own that. Look up what's his name? All Things, Yes, All Things, I believe is the name of the article. He's I've mentioned this article before, and now I can't remember his name. He's on the Gospel Coalition, kind of a well-known pop Calvinist theologian. And he owns it. You know, he says if the stock market goes up, God did it. Some guy he uses the illustration. If a guy gets his leg blown off in Afghanistan, the article's a few years ago, gets his leg blown off in Afghanistan, God did that. God absolutely blew his leg off. Abortion, God did that. At least he's a consistent Calvinist. Says if God predestines, everything is predestined. I think that free will is you have a free will. And I think that's taught in the Scripture. There are times in which God supplants, would that be the right word? Free will, which God does not allow it. When God has let's go ahead and call it a sovereign purpose, that he says this is going to happen. But those are rare times. We know that there are times that it happens. You know, I mean, we can look with certainty to there is a day of the second coming, for example, and the Father knows the hour. It has been set. It's not going to matter if someone's, got an appointment that day. No, can't do it today. Let's hold that off. No, it's going to be absolutely. But those are very rare times. Look down through just read the pages of Scripture in a natural, honest way, and you see, hey, yeah, there really is a lot of times in which God will let it go either way. There we go. Let's get to Larry today before I run out of time. A question that came in live today. How many earthquakes in Revelation? Seems like you could only wipe out the earth once. Are all the mentions talking about the same event? Let's do a little research here. Normally I have Luca do it, but he would just have to be yelling back and forth at me here. So let's look at some of these earthquakes that take place. Let's go to Revelation 6:12. I beheld, when he had opened the sixth seal, lo, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair. The moon became as blood. The stars of heaven fell into the earth. Excuse me. Now, the sixth seal, very close to the end. There's 7 seals, and 7 seals have 7 bowls and 7 trumpets and whatnot. But, it'd be hard to exactly answer how much time you've got with the 6th seal, but not much. I mean, you can see it would be, if the sun became black as sackcloth, moon became as blood. Now, we don't know that continues. But if it does, I mean, you can't live in the dark very long. The stars of heaven fell into the earth. We don't really know if it's all the stars, but they fell unto the earth, meteorites. This is probably the word astros, by the way, which isn't astronomical things that make light. Not necessarily a star as we would think of it today. So you could still have stars there. The heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. Every mountain and island were moved out of their places. I suppose that would be from the earthquake. It looks like a worldwide kind of shaking of the earth, if you will. Kings of the earth, great men and rich men, chief captains, mighty men, every bondman, free men, hid themselves in dens in the rocks and mountains and said to the mountains, fall on us. And they know the wrath of the Lamb has come. Really hard to extend that much farther. You go a little farther, but hard to extend that much farther. But that's Revelation 6. So then we've got Revelation 8. This is the seventh seal. In the seventh seal, the angel took the censer, filled it with a fire of altar, cast it unto the earth. There were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. Now, this is where the book of Revelation becomes really challenging, is making it chronological. Are the 6 seals chronological? Could the earthquake in the 6th seal be the same as this one in the 7th seal? It's actually the trumpet judgments. You could have another one, if we take it chronologically, one in the 6th, which is days, weeks, or at the most months from this one in the 7th seal and the 7th, well, it's one of the 7 trumpets, that he has the earthquake, and have 2 of them there. It's possible. Let's go to Revelation 11:13. And here at the same hour there was a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. It's a little different response from the previous earthquake that took place. This is at the resurrection of the 2 witnesses. This could be on the very last day, if you take it as a third one. But that's chapter 11, verse 13. If we go down to verse 19, you've got another one. The temple of God was open in heaven. There were seen in his temple, in the ark of his testament, there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake. Now, this one is interesting because you've got an earthquake. I think an earthquake is when the earth quakes. But the scene is taking place in heaven. Are these lightnings and voices and thunderings in the temple of God in heaven? But the earthquake and great hail are on earth? Possibly. I would want to dig into the word earthquake and see if that has to be on earth. I know it sounds obvious. But we might say, there was an earthquake of my soul, in which case the earth didn't quake. So can you use it in that sense? In 11:19, are we talking an actual physical on earth earthquake, or is this even a shaking of the temple of God in heaven with, God standing up for judgment, whatever it may be? Let's look at another one. Revelation 16, verses 18 through 20. There were voices, thunderings, lightnings. There was a great earthquake. Now, this almost sounds like the same thing we had in chapter 11. But such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great, the great city was divided into 3 parts. The cities of the nations fell. Great Babylon came in remembrance before God to give her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. That's Revelation 16, 18 through 20. So we've got, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 earthquakes. A standard reading is read those chronologically and really kind of seeing maybe a progression. But there are challenges in doing that, like we had from the very beginning at that sixth seal earthquake. It doesn't seem like you got much time left there. So, and just the logic, yeah, seems like you could only wipe out the earth once. Now, you could argue, okay, the sixth seal earthquake was intense. It was divine wrath. Involved, let's go ahead and say, a temporary darkening of the sun, turning the moon to blood. You know, the things in the atmosphere could do that, as we know. An astronomical storm that comes, but everything's not over yet. And then, you know, you have the earthquake in 8/5, and 11/13 seems to be more focused on Jerusalem with the resurrection of the two saints, which is, again, depending on where you put that, it's probably the same day, maybe a few days before, a few weeks before at the most, of the resurrection of the two witnesses. The earthquake in heaven, do you put that on earth? The earthquake at the fall of Babylon? But maybe, you know, 17 and 18 are embedded with 16, and where does that go? So let's just say I've done work before and taught work before on the chronology of Revelation. But I think I would be willing to say that virtually, I'll drop the word virtually, I think I would be willing to say that every chronology of the book of Revelation is built on some assumptions that might be wrong. And therefore, we ought to be really kind of very careful about accepting a chronology of the book of Revelation, even as we talked earlier in the destruction of the earth in the 2 Peter passage. Trying to put that together, really a lot of challenges that come through there. Well, it is past time. I've got a number of comments here. I want to make sure I haven't missed any questions. Yeah, I got a question from Randy down in Corsicana. Would you make sure we get that? A question from Brandon in Corsicana. I mean Brandy. I mean Randy in Corsicana about pro-life Calvinists. Let's make sure we get that on the list tomorrow. And we'll get there. I think that was all of the questions, perhaps. Anyway, lots of good commentary on there. Good to see all of you. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know, but glad you're here. We'll be on all week long, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, Ask the Theologian. If you have a question you would like to submit, you can do it at askthetheologian.com, and we'll get that. I saw one just come in just right now, and we'll get those tomorrow and be ready to go. And again, look forward to the week here together with you. You know, I should mention here before we leave. Let's see. We have over here, if you go to dispensationalpublishing.com, under the sun right here, this book, I'm working on this right now, and you can get a pre-pub of it if you would like for $14.95. You'll save you a little money on it. And we'll send you the weekly chapters. This week you'll get chapter 1 and chapter 2, and then each week you'll get along the way, and you'll get a nice little customized homepage in there that lets you know you were one of our helpers in getting this off the ground. So if you'd like to go there, dispensationalpublishing.com. I always appreciate that. And thank you all for being here with us today. Do look forward again to seeing you. How about tomorrow? That'll be good. We'll see you. Submit your questions at AskTheTheologian.com, RandyWhiteMinistries.org. We've got the rest of our stuff there. God bless you. Have a great Monday.